Sorry. Hey, Pastora. I didn't have YouTube on for a second there. Wait a minute. Ghost, I'm sure will be here. This is his show. Until then, let me do a quick rundown here. So this is a continuation of last week, right? Yeah, last week. It was last week, I think. Yeah, no, it was last week. It was last week. So this is part 2 of last week, talking about souls. What are souls? What do they do? What does it mean? Where do they come from? How do they interact with the world? Yada yada yada. But before all that, preamble. This is a open forum, topic-based discussion. Everybody votes. Lilith, good to see you. Everybody votes in Discord on what the topic is going to be. That is every Thursday night, usually, if I'm on my game, usually, but at least within 48 hours from the stream, we all vote. Whatever is voted in is next week's topic discussion. If the stream goes down, because that is happening, even though we're hardwired and I have better internet than anybody I've ever talked to, because we pay a lot of money for it, it still goes down. So when it goes down, because it's going to at some point in the future, probably Saturday nights, it seems to be Saturday nights mostly, just go to Discord. Discord is running right now. There are people in Discord listening right now. So just default there if YouTube decides to boot us off. If you choose to come on and talk, which is only through Discord, so you're going to need to join the podcast voice channel in Discord if you would like to speak. If you do decide to do that, please be mindful of what you say. This is live. I cannot cut anything out. And also try not to swear. We do the best we can. We fail often, but we at least give it a shot. We give it the old college try to keep this as family-friendly as possible. Some of the topics get out of control, so as a parent, please just be aware of that. If you have children around, that is your choice as a parent, how you decide to approach that. Tonight should not be one of those nights. Tonight is pretty chill. So beyond that, Ghost is here. Anybody out, in the Discord voice channel, which now you can see. Nope, now you can see. You have to raise your hand. If you raise your hand, then I know you want to talk. Otherwise, I just assume that you're hanging out in there and just listening. Rodriguez is here. Souls sometimes are broken, and Jesus be a great answer. That is the truth. Saturday nights, I feel like souls are broken. When we read that stuff, I feel like souls are broken. I thought it was only no swearing Sundays. I mean, it's try not to swear all the time. But even Sundays, I've been blowing recently. I've been loosening on a lot of that stuff. For better or for worse. I suppose depends on you. So, Ghost, is there a specific way you want to start this, or you want to just roll through some of the stuff that we got?
Maybe roll through what you got, because I don't really have much. I'm going to post something in the thing, the Souls Part 2 thing right now, but other than that, I don't have anything.
Okay, cool. Then I thought this was interesting. So in Google Gemini, in case you don't know what that is, it's Google's AI. It's taken more heat than I could possibly explain recently, because it was coded in a just atrocious manner when compared to other AIs, which are already problematic. But I decided to kind of throw the question at Gemini and see what it came up. So what I asked was, explain the major differences between different religions' concepts of what a human soul is. They said, absolutely. Here's a breakdown of how various religions view the concept of the human soul. Christianity. Origin. The soul is a distinct entity created by God at the time of an individual's conception or birth, which I thought was interesting. I wonder where it's getting the differentiating factor from. I would pretty heavily argue that it's conception. If it's based on the Bible, it would be conception. So Gemini has to be pulling from sources obviously outside of Scripture, because within Scripture, there's no reason to think that at all. And you could definitely try to search for yourself, but I guarantee you're not going to find it. There's nothing in Scripture that would even insinuate that the soul begins at birth. That's completely made up. So it has to be pulling that from other sources that have nothing at all to do with the Bible. I just thought that was interesting. Then it says nature. The soul is the immaterial core of a person, encompassing their intellect, emotions, will, and their spiritual connection to God. Mortality. Many Christians believe the soul is immortal and continues its existence after bodily death. Then afterlife, upon death, the soul undergoes judgment, determining its eternal destination in heaven or hell. Then it's got Judaism. Diverse views. Judaism holds a variety of beliefs about the soul. Some believe in its pre-existence, others its creation at birth, and some even hold that there is no eternal soul. This, just for clarity, is absolutely true. So the most like obvious disconnect in Judaism is that you have like the way it's usually coined is you have religious Jews and you have cultural Jews. Cultural Jews, for the most part, very generalized, but for the most part, will like celebrate all the holidays. They might believe in God, like it might be something they say they believe in, but they don't practice the religion. I'd say the majority probably don't pray in any way. They don't study. They usually don't go to temple other than perhaps around holidays. But even then, in my experience, they don't. Religious Jews, on the other hand, are more towards the Orthodox end. Orthodox is the very far end of it where they're super religious. But religious Jews in general, they do all the holidays. They practice the actual religion. And they usually believe in God in such a way that they would pray and try to have some kind of connection to God. But in all that, there are a lot of different views in Judaism about what's the soul. Like most Jews don't believe an afterlife exists, which kind of adds some complexity to the concept of a soul. It means that the soul basically has a time limit. So when you die, the soul would die. And a lot of Jews believe that. A lot of Jews also just don't believe there's a soul at all. That's not a real thing. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama often discussions revolve around three concepts. Nefesh, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but Nefesh, the life force or vital breath. Ruach, spirit, often connected to intellect and emotions. Neshama, the divine spark within, connecting the individual to God. Afterlife. Judaism has varying and complex interpretations of the afterlife, including concepts like Sheol, a shadowy resting place, and Olam Haba, the world to come. And also, I think maybe it's just me and like the people I've been around throughout my life, but most Jews I know don't believe in heaven at all. They don't believe in any kind of afterlife whatsoever. And most of them, in my anecdotal experience, reject the idea of Sheol as well. Interesting. Islam, Ruah.
Oh, why are they Jews?
Exactly. I've always had this really weird relationship with Jewish people. My daughter's other side, their family is Jewish. And it was always just like shocking to me how I had a very different picture of like the Jewish life, the Jewish culture with religion. And nothing I thought was true. It was like very uninvolved, and they didn't really believe anything much at all. It was more cultural, and not like them specifically, but them and around other people that they know that are Jewish. It was just very interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see how you reconcile any of the beliefs you say you have. Like if none of that is there or exists, it's really odd. It's really odd. But maybe it's just me anecdotally. Maybe it's my small sample size. I'm not sure.
No, I mean, I think it's an ontology thing where if someone eats meat, they can't claim to be vegan. It's just don't claim to be something that you're not doing the thing. Whatever the thing is, if you're not doing it, then you're not the thing.
I agree. I don't get it. Unless it's just culture. But then maybe like a different term, or
yeah.
I guess that's why they kind of call it like cultural Jews and religious Jews. But I don't know. It's always kind of baffled me. It's very, very odd, very interesting.
Well, for me, culture and religion is just an algorithm of decision making. So I don't see a distinction between cultural and religious because they're both religious. I get very confused when people try to draw distinctions where there are none.
That's fair. So I think maybe a more accurate way of saying that would be culture.
Lazy? Well, I mean, maybe they're just lazy Jews. Like there's lazy Christians.
Perhaps, but I think I don't know the Jews I know, like I don't know. I guess I see that different. The Christians that I know who they're still very involved. They're just like they're not actually living it out, but they say they believe. Like if you question them, they'll really defend the fact that they're Christian. The Jews and totally anecdotally, but the Jews I've encountered, they don't fight for it at all. They'll like immediately back down and be like, well, no, it's just, it's just kind of like tradition. I'm like, oh, okay. So you're Jewish in practice, in a non-spiritual way. So maybe a better way of saying it would be you have cultural / religious Jews, and then you have spiritual Jews. Is that more fair, you think?
Yeah, I could see that. Like they act like the spiritual ones have a genuine belief and the other ones are going through motions for some mysterious reason.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's just tradition, I think. I don't know. I don't know. It's very odd. Rodriguez said, "Don't say lazy Jews. Say non-practicing Jews." Well, how about lazy religious people, or I guess
Yeah.
lazy spiritual people? But I don't know. It's one of those odd things that like all the Jews I've ever questioned about it immediately are like no, we don't really. I don't really believe most of it. It's just it's like tradition. It's what our family does. Like, okay, well, I can at least respect that. What I don't respect is like when you start questioning Christians, like you're to use an atrociously obvious answer that's probably going to piss people off. It's like, okay, you're selling pornography of yourself, but you're going to sit here and say you're Christian. Like, shut the hell up. No, no,
Yeah, you're not doing the thing, so stop
you're not doing the
identifying
thing.
with the label.
Yeah, to me, that's at best, and I still think it's inappropriate to say this, but at best, that's lazy Christianity. At best, I think that's graceful to say that's lazy Christianity. I think it's rejection of Christianity is what it actually is. It's
Yeah.
it's odd. It's very odd, but it's like spitting in the face of it. Joe getting canceled already. Lovely. I'm telling you, I'll remind you all again. I received a letter, not a letter. I wish they would have sent me a letter. I received an email from YouTube in a very, very nice way saying that they are not going to show this content to anybody. So it is up to you guys to do whatever you can with the groups of people you know so that this gets seen.
But they didn't tell you why, of course. They just said no.
Well, no, I can't remember. I think I said it on one of the last streams, but they said it in a really funny way. It was something like they didn't call it dangerous, but shit, I can't remember. I'll find the email. But they said something about the content was like wasn't suitable. It's not suitable for most audiences. Is the way that they said it. It's not suitable, so they're not going to recommend.
Thank God they're the arbiter of that.
I know, I know. Should we say Jews in the context of religion or a people? So I get that's a good clarification. Where at least I am talking about this in only the context of religion, and also spirituality, because there's a distinction. Like Go said, I think I even get caught up in the semantic lie of culture not being religious when it is. So I'm glad Go said that, because it is. So I think it's more culture / religion versus spirituality. You have religious people in Christianity or Judaism or whatever, Islam, anything, who are culturally and religiously wearing a label, but they're not practicing it. They're not doing the thing, like Go said. That's
I
kind
think
of the difference.
anywhere an algorithm is involved, a religion is involved, because I see them as the same.
Yeah,
It's choice. It's decision making.
yeah, it is. It's just a series of
So
decisions. Joe said
yeah.
SHI. Did I swear already? Oh, well, sorry. All right. Islam. Let's get through some of this. So Ruah, not sure. The soul Ra is a divine breath that God instills in the fetus. So interesting, they'll go with the scriptural version of it. Nature, it embodies the essence of a person, their consciousness, personality, and connection to God. Mortality, the soul is immortal and continues to exist after the body perishes. Afterlife, after death, the soul enters an intermediate stage. Barzakh, I don't know, awaiting the day of judgment. Ultimately, it will reside eternally in either paradise or hell. And then Hinduism and Buddhism, I'm not going to read because these are short and I have better, longer ones. So we'll let me come here. Should we read this? Mikkel threw in here a quote. Can I make this bigger? Oh yeah. Mikkel put only people who wear clothes find the naked body beautiful. The overriding value of modesty for sensuality is that it acts as a brake on energy. Artificially is a way of enjoying naturalness. What I enjoy about these vast fields I enjoyed because I don't live here. Someone who has never been, who has never known constraint can have a concept of freedom. Civilization is an education of nature. Wow, civilization is an education of nature. The artificial provides an approach to the natural. What we must never do, however, is mistake the artificial for the natural. In the harmony between the natural and the artificial lies the essence of the superior human soul. That's wild. The point at which we stand to view something forms the apex of an inverted pyramid whose base is indeterminable. That's Fernando Pessoa. Who is that? Do you have any idea? I don't know who that is.
I don't know who it is.
That's a badass quote, though.
Mikhail knows philosophers I've never heard of before, so
yeah, dude, he's a well of it. It's wild. All right, I think this is long. So Mikhail threw a video in here too, if anybody's interested in checking it out. Or I think it's a video, is it not? Let me see before I talk. No, it's an article. All right, hold on. See how long this bad boy is. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so we'll come back to this because I think this is going to coincide with some stuff. All right, so I've got all of this here. Do you want to go through your thing first, though, or do you want to wait?
My thing is super quick, yeah, so I guess it's at the bottom. I just put it there like a few minutes ago.
Spirit filters into the soul, creating a soul print is the one. Well, the black one is the one I have up right now, in case there's a lag. So white equals spirit, gray equals soul print, black is the soul. The soul print is what is saved in Sheol upon death, which will then be uploaded into a new soul at the appointed time. So explain.
So anything that follows that pattern right there it has that relationship. So you could think of like a cell phone. When it dies, your soul print is saved to the cloud so that you can go buy a new phone and upload it. And I think that's the same way it always happens. Like if you burn a book and it's the only book alive, but someone had it memorized, you could re-upload that book on a new paper because they had it memorized, hypothetically. So whenever you save a soul print somewhere on some kind of central database, and I'm sure we're probably going to get into the central database idea with the Eastern stuff.
Yeah.
Like the Akashic records or whatever.
Yep.
That's what it is. They just give it a different name. That's it. I mean, I just wanted to do an illustration.
And then spirit filters into the soul, creating a soul print that mirrors, right?
Yeah. And then the other one is just that without the soul. So you can see the soul print is just a bunch of data. It's a giant algorithm that creates our identity. And that's what gets saved in Sheol, which is just a bigger soul.
So Rodriguez said, so no rejuvenation, only upload to a new device?
Well, rejuvenation is semantical. Like, how is it being rejuvenated? I think the method of rejuvenation is what I just said.
So does this tie back to, it was a while ago, but when we talked about reincarnation, does this tie into some of your views on that?
Yeah, I think we don't reincarnate. I think when people have memories of a past life, it's not their past life, so to speak. It's a past life that they crossed streams with and remembered. But it's not like it was them.
Yeah. No, I remember you talking about that. So cross streams in what sense?
It's like a glitch or something. I really don't know why it happens, but it would seem to be because there's no. I think it's the central database thing. I think they're remembering something when they were born. Okay, this is what I think it is. Some little kids, they're like 4 years old, 3 years old. They remember a past life of like being a pilot or being a train operator or whatever, and they can give you details. They can tell you people they knew, etc. I think what's happening is that when they were born, they didn't travel through whatever the river of Lethe is. It's some kind of mechanism, electromagnetic in nature. They didn't travel through that for whatever reason, something glitched. So they can remember things that they shouldn't be able to remember, because we're all supposed to travel through that, and it kind of wipes, clean slates us so that we can build a new identity. And then that dies, it goes to Sheol. It's like this whole thing is like trying to build as many identities as possible to refer back to later as lessons or something like that. But yeah, whatever the river of Lethe is, they didn't cross that, so they can remember random lives, and they think it was their life, but it was just a life. But since we're all connected to this central database through the silver cord, something got crossed. I see it as a glitch. Maybe it's not a glitch. Maybe it's a certain percentage of people. I don't know. Okay, you pulled that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead and read that.
Yeah, so Lethe, the river of forgetfulness, is one of the 5 rivers of the Greek underworld. The other 4 are yada 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 rivers that separate Earth and the underworld. Oh, I'm sorry. According to Stadius, Lethe bordered Elysium, the final resting place of the virtuous. Ovid wrote that the river flowed through the cave of Hypnos, god of sleep, where its murmuring would induce drowsiness. So the Lethe is the river of forgetfulness, which is one of 5 rivers in the Greek underworld. Each one kind of serving a different purpose in a sense.
Yeah, I think the rivers are some kind of filter that resets everyone back to factory settings, so to speak, when a new soul is being born. So you can't remember previous things, but some percentage of people can, but it's so small that's why I think it's a glitch, but maybe it's not. Maybe they're supposed to remember for some reason as a testament or something. I don't know.
And I think we've brought this up before, and at that point I was like, damn, I need to look back into this, and I never did. So remind me then, at least from what you remember, is this, or I guess your understanding or interpretation personally, is this a physical place, or is this a plane?
Eel or Lethe?
No, so not Lethe necessarily, but the concept of the Greek underworld is pretty complex from what I remember, and there's a lot of different kind of interpretive views on where it is, what it is, if it's a part of this world. I mean, there are people who think, like you think Sheol is in the center of the earth. I've heard that about this. I've also heard that it's on like on a different plane, so it's in La La Land. It's outside of this reality.
I think the soul part of it is on this earth. The spirit part of it is a different plane, and it's the electromagnetic spectrum. And it goes through a medium, and the medium in our case seems to be iron and plasma. But it also travels through space, which is what, ether? Like, I don't know what space is, but it's a medium. These frequencies have to travel through some kind of medium, and the medium is the soul. It's like a substance that allows the spirit to travel through in a vibrational way.
Okay. The river,
because we couldn't have radio waves unless we had an atmosphere, unless there was some kind of medium to transfer those waves.
Yeah. Fair. So, okay, actually, hold on. Before I read, I don't want to skip over. So someone asked, so what's the purpose of the soul? I guess very briefly, since we're kind of running through primarily your views here. How would you answer that question? So what's the purpose of the soul?
It's an anchor to gather data and experiences. It anchors us to a subjective prison, so to speak, so that we feel like individuals, so that we can have experiences that then get sent back to a central database to be referred to later during court, so to speak. Talking strictly in the Christian framework.
Did we get into the why Did I press you about the why at all?
I don't. Maybe.
So
I can't remember.
So why? It goes to a central database. Why? You said for court, but why? Court, why? I'm gonna be an annoying 5-year-old. Why?
No, it's cool. Some people pass the test and some people don't. It's a filter.
But for what end goal? What does the test matter? Who gives a shit about the test? If there isn't like, oh, that's why we have the test. So why?
Why do we have the test? Oh yeah, I think we did talk about it.
I think we did a little bit, yeah.
To be able to stand on holy ground and be in God's presence. Like we're in a divine job interview. I think I said that.
Yeah, I think so. We did, and I think how far did we infinitely regress of me asking why? Because even then, we're standing on holy ground. Why? For what? Just to like,
because your it's basically God saying, can you conform your algorithm to my algorithm? Can you conform yourself to my shape?
Yeah,
so that you can work with me in a compatible way.
Yeah, we did do this because then I so still why?
But he wants someone to be in his shape by freedom of choice through work and not just snapping the fingers, because then they'd be robots.
Yes. Yeah, we did touch on a lot of this. So I mean, we're gonna repeat some of this stuff, and I hope everybody's cool with it. And it is what it is. But so if I recall, this is when we got into some of the stuff of where I believe you and I kind of divert, at least slightly, in that like my entire thesis is based off this unshakable for me thought that there's some kind of holy war, to say it in the most obnoxious, childish way. There's some kind of holy war. For me, that justifies everything you're saying. So even though like a lot of what you say is new or a different kind of view than mine or whatever, my general or central thesis, what you're saying always, it lines up with it for me. But for you, we're made in God's. He wants us to be as close to his algorithm as possible, or align with his algorithm as much as possible. But why? Like from your view, why? For what? For what is the end? Like the infinite regression to the core. For what?
I think it's the same reason any artist wants recognition. Whatever you can say that is. Right. He wants a relationship, number one, and he wants to be acknowledged as the one who created all of this. That's what worship is. It's kind of like acknowledging him and agreeing with him, and kind of walking in his statutes and stuff.
So you don't necessarily think there's something wild going on in what, it's just, again, to say it like a child, in like the spiritual realm.
I think it is wild. I think I'm oversimplifying it and breaking it down to like an easily digestible thing, but I think in reality it is super wild, because we're only living in a small fractal of what it really is. So some of that, so we can explain it with our language, but it's still just a small glimpse of the bigger picture. But when we get there, it's not like this is my opinion, I don't think we're going to see something that can't be analogized. That's what I don't think that that's a thing. Maybe it is.
What do you mean by that? Explain it. Say that in a different way.
I think metaphors can explain heaven, and that's why Jesus used them. So when we get to the next level, I don't think we're going to experience anything that couldn't be explained to us now using an analogy.
Right. Okay. Yeah. See, that's one of the points where you and I kind of divert from each other. Okay.
Because of fractals. If fractals weren't a thing, then I would agree with you. But since they are, I figure, and I know what you said, like maybe fractals only work up until level 3 or whatever. It may be.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm a big fractal guy too, which is why, like, on the other hand, I get why you are where you are. I get it. Okay. All right. Well, without completely going down this rabbit hole again, I'm sure we'll come back to it. So they asked, so what is the purpose of the soul? And then they said, is it a power source?
Is the soul a power source?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's a power source. It's definitely like a capacitor.
Like, it's
a transformer.
Does it support something? Why is data stored? Which I kind of already pressed you on. So does it support something? Is it a power source, and does it support something?
support?
I mean, in a sense, from what you were saying, it kind of supports the core.
Yeah, well, it is the core. It would support the agenda to create more souls, because that's what it is. It's a generator. But I don't think it's the full source of power, because the source of power goes up a chain. That's why I said it's kind of like a transformer, maybe, but
Yeah.
not the source. The source is outside of the universe. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'm definitely with that.
And then they filter in and get reduced until we can perceive it. And
Okay.
still, we can only perceive like a small fraction. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Infinitesimal. Okay, so then if he wants noticed, who is he impressing? Other gods, other souls? I think, weren't you saying that he wants noticed by us, or were you saying something
He
else?
wants to be noticed by everyone that he created. He wants acknowledgement, just like any artist wants acknowledgement for their work.
So just by creation in general.
Like, hey, check out what I did for you, so you can have a relationship with me. I created a mechanism so that you can actually know your creator. Isn't that neat? That's essentially what it is. And that's why it says he created everything for his pleasure. It's
Yeah.
pretty pleasurable to have a relationship if it's good, you know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think.
I mean, that took us into the what was it? The that it's a game, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a game.
So then now they're typing again. You were talking about the souls accepted on the plane of God. I thought you meant he was impressing there. Huh? I'm not following
I
that.
don't know.
Are you okay? I'm sorry. What? Try to say that in a different way. I'm.
It's my buddy.
Oh, okay. Try to say that in a different way. I was with you right up until those. Now I'm a bit confused. Okay. Nikola Tesla has some interesting theories on this. On souls?
On vibrations and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Vortex math. Vortex math is basically the foundation of a lot of my theory. Um, I only discovered it after I kind of had those dreams a little bit,
Okay.
and I didn't know what it was, so I just kind of like typed out long sentences in Google, like, what is this? And then it led me to vortex math and stuff. So,
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's another thing I definitely haven't spent any time on whatsoever. If you throw some stuff in Discord, tag me in it. I'd be interested to look at
sure.
some stuff for sure. Rodriguez said, I don't know about him wanting to be noticed, but maybe worship because he is worthy. Yeah, I mean, Ghost said that. He followed up with that's what worship is.
That's
That
what
it's
worship is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I obviously completely agree with that. The so I want to read this real quick though, because I think it was Pastora. Yeah, Pastora said the thing is a password, and I had no idea what she was talking about. And then I was, halfway reading, and now I know what she's talking about. So the river Lethe was said to be located next to Hades' palace in the underworld under a cypress tree. Orpheus would give some shades, the Greek term for ghosts or spirits, a password to tell Hades servants, which would allow them to drink instead of the Nemesine, I don't know, the pool of memory, which was located under a poplar tree. An Orphic inscription, said to be dated from between the 2nd and 3rd century BC, warns readers to avoid the Lethe and to seek the pool of memory instead. Drinkers of the Lethe's water would not be quenched of their thirst, often causing them to drink more than necessary. Interesting.
And these are all just, kind of psychological, scientific things that are happening that they mythologize to try to better understand. And Pyro, what do you say? Oh yeah. When your soul is accepted for his holy war or future vision past humanity. I was confused when you said he was like God is the artist, and we're miniature artists that work in his art studio, so to speak. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense. Was also named the personification of forgetfulness and oblivion, with whom the river was often associated. Although some sources have identified Lethe as the daughter of Oceanus, the father of other river goddesses, identifies her as the daughter of Iris. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Let me see. Let's see if your buddy came back here.
You want to, I mean, speaking of daughters, if you want to look at it in computer terms, you could say the graphics card is the daughter of the CPU because it connects to it and it's like birthed from it. The electricity passes through the CPU, then it goes in like, so daughter just means it's an offspring that retains something. And the son would be an offspring that doesn't retain something but goes into something. So these are just like mechanical terms using characters.
Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. Huh. Yeah, I gotta roll through this stuff again. Your friend here, when your soul is accepted for his holy war or future vision past humanity. I was confused when you said he was like an artist. Oh, is that what you were responding to?
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay. Bloke seems legit though. What? What?
Yeah,
okay.
he's my buddy. He's cool.
But that was Mikkel said bloke.
I think.
Oh,
I
is he
think he's
talking
talking about
your buddy? Okay.
my buddy? Yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
I don't. Yeah, I get every other one in there, so I'm lost half the time. All right, so some of the Eastern stuff.
Yeah, let's get on that.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. So Hinduism and Buddhism kind of divided. So comparing the two, Hinduism and Buddhism share some similarities, such as their origins in ancient India and their beliefs in karma, dharma, and the cycle of birth and rebirth, samsara. However, there are key differences between the two religions. Concept of God. Hinduism is polytheistic, believing in multiple gods and goddesses, with the ultimate reality being seen as the source of all creation. Buddhism, on the other hand, is non-theistic, with no belief in a creator god. One of the most interesting things to me was learning how many people thought Buddhism was like similar to Christianity in the sense of the deity, which just, it could not be more wrong. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's like the way just Hollywood and culture have kind of made it like a religion means there's a god. I don't know, but it's not at all the case. And Hinduism is extremely polytheistic, like wildly polytheistic, and also extremely interesting to look through all their gods and the meanings they put behind them. So the self, Hinduism believes in the existence of an eternal self, Atman, that is part of the ultimate reality, Brahman. Buddhism, however, teaches the concept of anatta, or no self, which rejects the idea of a permanent, unchanging self, which will feed into the concept of the soul in a minute. Goal of life. In Hinduism, the ultimate goal is to achieve moksha, liberation from the cycle of birth and rebirth, by realizing the identity of Atman and Brahman. Buddhism seeks to achieve nirvana, the state of liberation from suffering and the cycle of rebirth, by following the eightfold path and eliminating attachment and ignorance. Caste system. Hinduism traditionally has a caste system which categorizes people into social classes based on birth. Buddhism rejects the system and teaches the equality of all beings. Approach to rituals and practices. Hinduism places a strong emphasis on rituals, ceremonies, and the worship of deities. In all honesty, it's very similar to a lot of old pagan religions. Buddhism emphasizes meditation, mindfulness, and the cultivation of wisdom and compassion. And I would add to it that it's very, very self-centered, and not necessarily in a negative way. I guess as from like a Christian perspective, it would be seen as somewhat negative. But in a general perspective, I would argue it's certainly not. But it's very introspective. So Buddhism on the soul. In Buddhism, there's a concept called anatta, which translates to no self or non-self. The concept is central to Buddhist philosophy and has several implications regarding the nature of the soul. No permanent self. Buddhism teaches that there is no permanent, unchanging self or soul, Atman. Instead, what we perceive as a fixed self is a collection of ever-changing physical and mental components, which I find somewhat interesting. Based on even you kind of ran through some stuff in the beginning that maybe it's just me, but my brain, in a certain sense, sees a similarity. Obviously, very big differences too. But that's kind of what I was saying last week. Is some things I find like very similar about them, like the filtration system and how we were talking about reincarnation. How you called it a glitch, but where somebody feels like they had a past life, but it wasn't theirs. They're just kind of glitching with somebody else's past life. A lot of the ways that the Buddhist, I guess, what the equivalent of like a commentator would be, have explained things like that, reminded me of what you were explaining with that. So interconnectedness, Buddhism or Buddhists believe in the interconnectedness of all things, which again kind of reminds me of that to some degree. Rather than a separate individual soul, they see the self as part of a larger web of life and existence. And you can cut me off anytime if you want to expand on any of this stuff or jump in.
Yeah, I think in order for them to see it as a larger web, they're forgetting that there has to be something that filters into that web, or else there wouldn't be a web. Like there's always an outside principle that creates like you can't have riverbeds unless the water comes. Like the riverbeds don't just form on their own.
Yeah.
So you have to have a spirit that kind of pushes that influence to create the shape. So they can say things like web and root structure or whatever they want to say, but like, how do they form? So the Atman or whatever, that's Hindu, right? That would have to exist. And they say it doesn't. So I don't know. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's one of those things too that when, depending on where you pull from, but I will say though, like Buddhism and Hinduism are much more consistent than something like Christianity. But even then, there's definitely, different offshoots, and some of them take some of these things to a different place. But Buddhism, you just have to remember with Buddhism too, like there's no God in any sense that we're used to. There's no God, which kind of changes everything. But I would agree that a lot of it, even then, like it doesn't add up. A lot of it actually reminds me of atheism, where like you get to a point of like this doesn't make any sense. It's
like ancient atheism.
Yeah, it's like ancient, meditative, beautiful atheism.
There's a lot that's great. Like I'm not gonna say it's not, but it's incomplete. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Impermanence, still on Buddhism. Buddhist teaching emphasizes the impermanent nature of all things, including the self. The idea of a fixed, eternal soul is incompatible with the belief in impermanence. No self in 5 aggregates. According to Buddhism, the self is composed of 5 aggregates. These are form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These are actually really interesting if you take the time to like read books about this. It's wildly interesting. These aggregates are important and constantly changing, leading to the conclusion that there is no permanent self within them. Rebirth, not reincarnation, which is another thing. Maybe it's just me, but my understanding is most people think they believe in reincarnation, like in the very stereotypical sense of reincarnation, and they don't. While Buddhism does not believe in rebirth, it differs from the concept of reincarnation in Hinduism. I'm sorry, Buddhism does believe in rebirth. It differs from the concept of reincarnation in Hinduism. In Buddhism, there is no transfer of permanent soul from one life to another. Instead, rebirth is seen as a continuation of a stream of consciousness influenced by karma, which is very different from what I think. Maybe it's just me, but like from what I think most people think about Buddhism specifically in the context of like reincarnation, it's not at all like that. They have a very specific view of rebirth. It's a very specific thing, and it has like defined rules that surround or that are encompassed by karma. Very interesting. Don't agree with it, but very interesting. And I one of the interesting things to read about is the last bit. The way that some of the writers will describe the continuation of the stream of consciousness it's just really cool. It's a very cool, I don't agree with it, but it's a very, very cool theory. And then the way that they connect it to karma, which in a Christian kind of context would would be like our works, the things that we're actually doing. Everybody has like a very Hollywood understanding of what karma is. It's much deeper than the surface level, definition of what karma is.
Is it essentially cause and effect, or?
Yeah, I mean, yes, essentially, yes. But and maybe it's just that like the Buddhist people are super poetic. They're very good at expressing things, and they're very good at making things sound more complicated than they are, but also sound more beautiful than like most people would, which I think is what captures a lot of people into Buddhism, when like really what they're saying isn't that complex and it's not that profound and it's actually very empty and incomplete, but they make it sound so goddamn good. They make it sound so good and so nice. But the continuation of the stream of consciousness is actually very interesting. It's worth reading about. And then the way that they interconnect it with the concept of karma is very interesting. But when you pull those two things, continuation of consciousness, Christians in a general sense believe that. In a general sense, they believe that. You could change words and argue semantics a little bit, but the actual theory of, which is, I mean, kind of what we're talking about. So it's the idea of soul or spirit, or depending on who you are and what you believe, whatever. But the fact that there is some piece of us that most Christians believe continues on, and it is in some way similar to what you are now, in perhaps maybe consciousness, or depending, but still the general theme is very similar. And then the interaction with karma, unless you're one of the grace only people and you can go smoke crack and buy hookers and stuff and still call yourself Christian, we have a certain concept of karma. It's just it's got a different set of parameters. It's explained different, but there's some alignment there that I feel like a lot of people just try to ignore or act like doesn't exist. Karma is when you drop a rock in a pond and there are ripples, Dylan said. Cause and effect.
Or when you poison a pond and kill the neighborhood. I mean, it's all cause and effect, right?
Yeah. Reaping what you sow. It's SOW. You had it right on the correction. Karma is like reaping and sowing. Yeah, in a very general sense, yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. Overall, the Buddhist belief... no, we don't need to read that. All right, so Hinduism on the soul. So, in simple terms, Buddhists don't believe in souls. Period. They have one very kind of niche section of their beliefs that is what I just focused on a lot, which is this concept of the continuation of a stream of consciousness. But it's not at all like what Christians think of when they think of a soul. There are some similarities that you could tie. And then, like I said, same with karma. But if you're being honest and like complete about it and detailed about it, I'd say it's too off base to really try to tie anything of extreme substance to. Hinduism, the concept of the soul, Atman, is central to its philosophy and is believed to be eternal and unchanging. Here are some key beliefs about soul and Hinduism. Atman Brahman. Hinduism teaches that the individual soul, or Atman, is identical to the ultimate reality, Brahman. The cosmic soul, or universal consciousness, realizing this identity is the goal of life, moksha. Eternal nature. The soul is believed to be eternal, existing before birth and continuing to exist after death. That conflicts with what Google's awful AI told you about Christianity and also told you about Judaism, just as a point of clarity. Before birth and exists after death. It undergoes a cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. That's samsara. Until it achieves liberation, moksha. Distinct from the body. The soul is distinct from the physical body and is not affected by its changes or death. It is the essence of a person's true self. So far, I'd say most Christians who are not having this type of conversation that we're having tonight and last week, if you just read this to them and took all the key Hindu words out and put in some Christian words, they'd be right on board with this in my opinion. Distinct from the body, karma. Hinduism teaches that actions, or karma, performed in one's life affect the soul's future births. Good actions lead to positive outcomes, while bad actions lead to negative consequences, cause and effect. I'm not going to try to say it. Big word. Big word starts with the P. I'm going to try to say it. Purusharas. I don't know. Hinduism identifies 4 goals of human life. Not going to try again. Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, which is liberation. So you have righteousness, prosperity, pleasure, and liberation. Pleasure is one of the interesting ones that aligns very much with a lot of old pagan religions. Pleasure is kind of antithetical to a lot of Christian tenets. Christian tenets are, in a way, to abandon pleasure, to reject pleasure, in a very general sense. Many pagan religions were, pleasure was the goal. Pleasure was one of the key fundamental things. The Corinthian church they were in an area geographically and culturally where the pagan religions around them, pleasure was not everything, but it was a massive part of the religions, which is why the Corinthian church had such a problem with sexual immorality. Just to add a little bit of context. So Hinduism is very geared towards pleasure too. I believe this is actually where you get the Kama Sutra from. If you're not familiar, Google it, but be very careful on what you click on. Moksha, achieved through spiritual realization, is considered the highest goal. That was liberation. Liberation is the highest goal, freeing the soul from the cycle of birth and death. So that would be the end of the cycle. You'd be free from it. So the cycle that was explained, a cycle of birth, death, and rebirth until it achieves liberation. Well, once achieved liberation, the cycle of birth and death ends. So that there's an actual finish line in a sense. Individuality. While the soul is considered a part of the ultimate reality, it retains its individuality even after attaining liberation. This is different from the concept of nirvana in Buddhism, where individuality is transcended. Incarnation. Hinduism believes in the cycle of birth and rebirth, where the soul takes on new bodies based on its karma. The ultimate goal is to break free from this cycle and attain liberation or moksha. So in Hinduism, you are born into a cycle. Your soul, which existed prior to you in a physical sense, you are born into this cycle of trying to achieve liberation. And you just continue this cycle of death and rebirth until you achieve liberation. At that point, you are free from the cycle and you are fully liberated. It's very interesting. It's very different from Buddhism, contrary to popular belief. It's very, very different.
Yeah, Rodriguez sent me something on Numa, and then Psyche.
Yeah, you could read it, you could screen share it, whatever you want to do.
It's a lot. Like, I don't know if
Rodriguez, are there any key points?
for some reason she can't post things, and I'm not sure why.
What do you mean? Where?
You can't post things in the Souls Part 2 podcast.
Just that one section?
Thesis. No, she had a problem with it last week too, and I don't know. Maybe it's like a setting.
Is it files she's trying to post?
No, they're just pictures, screenshots of Strong's
Interesting.
concordance.
All right, I'll look into that. Rodriguez, while we're on here, try again, because I saw you just posted a Bible verse in there. Not just an hour ago, but try to post a picture in there, and then if you can screenshot or at least like explain in detail what it looks like or what happens when you do it. Is whatever she sent you? Oh, Rodriguez has your hand up too here.
Yeah, maybe she can talk.
All right, you're up. You're in and live. Just heads up, Rodriguez.
What was that? Like, don't say swear words.
Well, I just don't. You weren't saying anything, so I just want to make sure you were aware
Oh.
that you were up.
Well, I was trying to go back to the chat because you wanted me to try to upload it. I don't know if it's like a thing where you have to be like members only or something.
It shouldn't be. That's why just try later and then let me know what it looks like, and then I can try to fix it.
Okay. So if you pull up the scripture that I gave, I think it was in First Thessalonians.
Yep.
Something.
5:23.
Yeah. So it actually has the word spirit, soul. Hang on. Spirit. Yeah, spirit, pneuma, and then soul, which is psyche. And then there's body, which is soma. And the only thing I was going to say is if you kind of look at the definitions, it almost seems like in the concordance, those are the things where I pulled up, where I sent ghosts, like the attachments.
Okay.
Because I couldn't, I don't know. Ghosts, are you able to put it on there or no?
Yeah, let me
If you have a safe screen, you can share that. But
there
if
are a bunch of photos, so let me just save
Well,
them
because
all.
it's the screenshots of like the concordance definition, and they're kind of lengthy, so I don't want to
for which words?
not provide the full definition. You know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes we take a snippet of a definition based off of what we believe or what we want to believe and run with it and don't give the full meaning, if that makes
If
sense.
you want to look up the Strongs for all three. Now, again, I agree with you, Joe. These are colored by Greek philosophy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, right. That's fair.
That's it's a huge problem, actually. But let me see.
Right. I don't know. I kind of wonder if things are different though post ascension, and I don't know. Well, that's a different conversation, I guess. But
Do you know which just so it's exactly what you had, so it's easier.
I could okay, so Strong's G4151.
Yeah.
If you Google that, it'll come up.
G4541.
G41.
I'll let you talk about. I'll let you say it.
I'm sorry.
G541. You guys are killing me.
No. G like God 4. 151, and that's going to be pneuma. Pneuma.
BLB. But I'm just being an asshole. Blue letter Bible.
Yeah.
We'll do NIV because this is what most people read.
Does it matter if you're doing concordance? Like, honestly,
concordance shouldn't matter.
No, it shouldn't. No, but if they quote verses, it'll.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never seen it like not on a phone. Huh.
Actually, there's
it's on there. There you go.
There's still KJV. Is this what you wanted to see right here?
4151. Yeah, does it have everything? I just want to make sure it says all the same stuff.
A lot of the top ones just like almost like
it's the top
commentary. One. It's not even really a definition.
No, not that part. Go up higher. Right there. The outline of the usage where it talks about like different parts. Okay, so this one is for spirit, right? Specifically. But then if you look.
But pneuma is not the third person. That's paraclete. So they're conflating ideas.
So look at it. Look at Roman numeral 2, part B. It actually says the soul. And that's the part where I'm noticing like there's some stuff that's kind of interchangeable. And even point number 3, part B also.
This is why I draw a distinction between soul and soul print.
I don't think there is a distinction though. I think it is an overlap, and I think it's supposed to.
It overlap, exactly. That's exactly right. That's why the soul is black and the soul print is gray, because the white part, the spirit, is what creates the combination, and that shape is the individual's identity.
Okay, so
yeah,
is
it does overlap.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but it almost sounds like based off of what you're saying, there's only an overlap when it comes to soul and spirit. Is that what you're saying, or do you think there's an overlap with other parts as well, like the body and the spirit and whatnot?
No, because I only see the body as a collection of spirit or a collection of souls. I'm sorry.
Okay, so the body overlaps with the soul or any other part, or no?
Yeah, the body is just a dam. Like it's
Okay,
the
so then
thing
no.
that anchors us
You're saying
to a
no.
location. I guess. I didn't
Yeah,
hear your question. I'm
but it's,
sorry.
I guess I'm questioning as to what part you think overlap. Do you think the body overlaps with any other part, such as the spirit or the soul?
Yeah, because has your foot ever fallen asleep? I mean, yeah, the body is a walking soul. Like, we have
Okay.
sensations because we have nervous system, which is a soul.
Okay, so yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Without going into more stuff. Yeah. Okay, so then if we look at, okay, so we're in Pneuma. So at the end of Pneuma, if you look at Roman numeral 5 point B, where it talks about breath of the nostrils, right? And then if you go into Psyche, which is G5590.
Might want to pull it up in a different tab.
Oh, well, it's 1A, and it talks about breath and breath of life there also. And I guess
Yeah.
that's the part.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just saying, yeah, we got both right here.
Yeah, and then do you want the other one? Soma G4983.
Might as well.
It's up. Was this breath? What were we looking at in Soma?
Soma was body.
All right, yeah, you got all three here.
Yeah. So I guess the part that I thought was just interesting was just the fact that you could point out some of the definitions in other parts. So I think it's a lot of it is kind of interchangeable and overlapping. That's all. And yes, I know it's Greek, but
So just in what way specifically, or I guess actually, how about this? Like what's the insinuation by kind of proposing that? Like what does that mean to you? I guess is what I'm asking.
there was something Ghost had said earlier about, or what does that mean? I don't completely know. I mean, of course I don't know, but it's almost sounds just like triune. Like there's not, I guess a full being needs to have these three parts.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Maybe
The
this
problem
would,
with these words is that they were trying to define something that was way out of their weight class.
I don't know about
And
that. And
they only had certain language to explain. And we're trying to do the same thing. I mean, it's out of our weight class too, but we have a bigger collection of words and ideas than the ancients did.
I mean, the English word's not so much. I don't know about that though. I mean, I think we kind of really underestimate it, especially since, I know you know about like
They weren't
hitting
building computers.
and
It's not a mystery. Like we know
building
more than they did.
pyramids.
so,
I mean, I don't know. You could be right. You could be wrong. I don't know.
They weren't driving around in cars. They were driving around in chariots. So I mean,
Right.
So
I don't know.
hold on. So I mean, here's the thing. On one hand, it seems as though people of ancient time had more of a spiritual sense, perhaps. So that
More in tune.
more in tune. I would argue that line. But on the other hand, I mean, we obviously have. Maybe not obvious, but I believe that we have more ways of expressing what is spiritual, albeit something that's kind of lost in modern day. But we do have like the power of language. We've come a long way with all that. I think one of the things that you just have to be honest about is like the Bible is chock full of mistakes. It's one of the primary kind of issues, and I don't know if. Why would you think they had like a full grasp of the soul? I'm not on either team, so I'm a good arbiter for this. Why would, what makes you think, I guess, that they had a grasp on the soul, the spirit, and the body even before any translations? Like they themselves in their actual life, present day for them, what makes you believe that they had like a very firm grasp? I don't necessarily think you're wrong. I don't think you're right. I don't think you're wrong. So what makes you think that?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I'm trying to say that I'm right or wrong. I don't know that I can come up with a conclusion. The only thing I can say is it's fair. I think we can all kind of agree that they were more in tune, right? Once upon a time. They
Yeah.
were more advanced in some other ways that we most definitely are not. How or why that is, I don't know. But
I think advancement comes in stages and in waves. So like we have people in 2024 right now who can build microchips, and then we have people who still wipe their butt with their hand. You know what I'm saying? So like they all exist in the same time, but we're not all on the same level. And I think that's how the past was too. So I think in general, ancient people, they understood patterns. They could recognize patterns better than modern people, but we understand details better. So it's almost like we have to come together and take the details and apply them to the patterns and understand what's really going on. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Here's one of the things I would ask both of you. If we're going to do,
uh-oh.
because I'm trying not to like kind of derail this, but one of the things that I would urge, I guess, everybody to do is, if when you're doing something like this, the living body, why? A living being, why? A living soul, why?
Because it's animated with spirits. Oxygen, electricity, water, blood, all those things are spiritual.
I agree. It's one of kind of the, to me it's one of the differentiators. It's a defining term or a differentiating addition to a description for me, when
A manifesting of like the metaphysical. Manifesting of the physical from the metaphysical.
in a way maybe, yeah, in a way, but in more of just like a very simple sense, totally to me. There's no, and it's I'm telling you, it's fucking impossible. Sorry, yeah, you're right, I am swearing. It's fucking impossible to translate this shit and make it make sense. Now I don't care.
Right.
It's just, it doesn't work. But at least some of the interesting things to see are things like that, because why to me it makes obvious that they at the very least the translators saw that there's some valid reason that there should be a distinction, because they could just say, and this is, the Bible's chock full of this, a living being, a living soul, but even just soul, do you need to say living? Is it not?
Here's the thing is, I think
Mars is a dead soul.
Okay, then we get into the definition of death, because I think to some degree or another, they had a little bit more understanding in that department, because it's my understanding that 3 days was a really big deal. And that's when I think, isn't it? That's when they actually would say someone is actually dead. You had to wait at least 3 days. Now, how that works in terms of body, soul, spirit, I have no clue whatsoever. And when someone is brain dead, oh, I got questions with that also.
That means no electricity. They're being kept alive.
That means which part though? The body is alive, but what's dead? That's what I want to know. Is it the soul? Is it the spirit? I mean, I got into this like, with, where does our soul reside? Where does our spirit reside? What happens when we have amputations, lobotomies, or heart transplants? Who goes what and what goes where? I know I've brought that up before.
I think it goes to Sheol.
What part,
your identity, the
what
data,
part?
the electrical
Okay.
data.
The electrical data.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So if I have a heart transplant,
Your
What
identity's in the brain, though.
Okay, so if I have parts of my brain gone,
Then it would be.
I mean, that
I
happens.
think our identity saves every nanosecond. So if something happens to your brain, the you
There's
that
a
was
partial upload on the iCloud.
all the time, we're streaming. We're streaming. That's pretty much what it is. We're streaming from Sheol. That's what I think. And I know it sounds weird, but that's what I think.
I guess
So
I'm
then-
just trying
That's
to.
being absorbed into our brain. Just like we can watch Netflix on any TV. It doesn't matter if it's like a pimped out OLED or just some garbage TV you get at Walmart. You can watch Netflix on all of it, but the
Yeah, but the
TV's different.
subscription has to be there. If my card is done and it doesn't like it, then you can't watch it on anything.
That's why all human souls are equal in that regard, because we all have to subscribe to this experience. But
All
our
parts of
life
us.
experience, yeah. So like watching a movie on a little crummy TV is way different than watching it on a giant OLED TV. But
Okay.
it's still the same movie. You're just seeing it through a different lens, and you're both subscribing. So that's how I see it.
I don't know. When you get into death and transplants, I think there's just a lot of complexity. Organ donation. That's the part where I get really.
Well, why?
There's all kind of mind fuckery. Wait, what?
Why? Like, so I guess let's isolate one. So like organ transplants. Why does that kind of tweak you out?
Because I'm not understanding exactly where the soul and this spirit reside and overlap. So, like the heart or the brain would be a good example of where, I don't know, something resides and overlaps.
Like your
The identity
your
resides in the brain.
You know, and I think we've all heard stories of like someone who has a heart transplant and, you know, weird things happen. Like maybe they crave chicken nuggets or they randomly like horseback riding or can play the violin, you know, certain things like that. So that's the part that I'm kind of, you know, really struggling with is in terms of different aspects like that.
I agree. I mean, there are some weird cases. Yeah.
So then I don't know, my question with that would be, does that have anything to do with your spirit or your soul, or could that be something else? But why?
No, it does have something to do with it. Like, can the soul and spirit be divided? Can parts of it reside in some parts, you know, in other places? Like,
Well, I don't disagree with that, but why does it have to be one of those things? I mean, I guess the first thing to just like make very obvious is that I don't think the three of us, even in a room of, you know, 10, 11, 12 people, I don't think we all are fully on the same page with what each one of those words means. So but so
you put Ghost and I in the same room, and
but get rid of all that. Take like the most stereotypical, gather 1,000 Americans, ask them what a soul is. Let's go based off of that. So it is sure what you said about the could be in your heart in pieces or whatever. Why does that have to be the soul? Why could that not be explained in a different way? Why does that have to be spirit? But why? Why couldn't it be explained in a different way? The bottom line for me is like your heart dies and it turns into nothing. It goes back into the earth.
Does it?
I mean,
the identity doesn't reside in the heart.
It decays. Your heart decays. I mean, that's
but I think
graphic,
there's some science. There's some scientific evidence that proves otherwise. And I just gave some examples, you know, someone who craves this food or all of a sudden randomly has a passion for motorcycles and they found out the person who died, you know, loved motorcycles, things like that. So I would say that there's enough evidence that says that that's not true.
No, but I didn't dispute that. I agreed with you. I said, so those things can happen. I totally agree with that. But the cold hard reality is, regardless of any of that, say somebody has a heart transplant, now they love horseback riding. Yeah, hard to explain. You can definitely have some theories. Bottom line, though, is when that person dies, their heart will decay. As with the rest of their body, it will turn into nothing. It decays and rots in the ground.
So does a part of their spirit and soul get transferred with the transplant?
Well, so that's kind of the question. That's just all I'm trying to do is kind of siphon the actual question and not get caught up.
That would be the question. And does that mean they have two different dates of death? the first one when they do the transplant, and then the second one when the person who received the transplant died.
I
So
think
like when they're
death,
on the pearly gates, right, and talking to who is it, St. Peter or whoever the hell it is, are they like, well, hang on, we need to wait till the rest of you gets here?
well, couldn't these just
No.
be like remnants, almost irrelevant?
I
So
think it
that-
has something to do with bacteria, but we're going to go into like a whole new thing if I bring up bacteria.
Interesting.
So, but yeah, I think a bacteria has a lot to do with our identity. So it's not just like, oh, it's just electricity that creates it. There is like a whole cornucopia of things that are going on.
But which part of the cornucopia?
It might be irreducible. So I tend to think it's irreducible. So like you said, if someone gets a liver transplant, that bacteria is on the new liver is foreign to that body. So it's like the culture is going to change. Literally,
they
the
give you
culture.
antibiotics to knock all that out. So aside from that, though, I'm just trying to figure out, are parts of you residing in other parts when there's transplants? And if so, are there different dates of death?
Doesn't matter though.
It does, because then
Why?
when does someone die?
Well, I mean, in this reality, we kind of count death as when an individual's brain
body.
when your brain shuts down, your brain.
No
which is-
brain waves, aka no electricity in the body.
When your
No
energy
heart.
no longer is there. Yeah, so that's when they die. So then if I die in a motorcycle accident, as soon as my brain stops transmitting, I'm considered dead. And then they harvest my organs against my will, and they give them to somebody else.
Probably.
And probably. And they and that person now is saved, and now they oddly like reading very dry stuff about theology. It doesn't change that I'm dead. It's so like I get the question. I respect the question. It's a really interesting question. I almost see it as like irrelevant though. I'm dead. It's done. So like that's over.
You're dead. You're dead here, right? But what's the definition in the other, I don't know, realm, so to speak, right? Because there's lots of people who have, what do they call it? NEDs, near
Mm-hmm.
death or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Where they were dead according to that part, but then over here they're not, right? So we have a bit of overlap of misinformation there. So that's the part where I'm kind of trying to figure things out.
This might be where I skew. I think death is only a part of this reality. I don't think it exists elsewhere. Maybe that's just
I
me,
think
though.
it's just part of the phase. Like we look at it as, oh, it's death. Everyone has to do it. We see it in movies. We experience it in our life. But I think it's just part of phasing up to something different. That's why we all have to do it. And then when we do it, we'll look back and be like, oh, that's just the thing we had to do. That's the way I look at it.
This is
But
like
we're only looking forward. We can't look back yet.
Yeah.
And looking back is what's going to give us the awareness.
Yeah.
But some people have foresight, and maybe that's what a prophet is. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know that there's like totality when it comes to some of these things, like out, you know what I mean? Like all at once. That's
Well,
the part.
I think there is. The question is,
I
can
have
we
way too many
grasp it?
questions.
There would have to be, because reality has a rule set. Like there has to be an answer. It's just, can we figure it out? And I don't know. I would suppose yes, but the fact that it's there or not, of course it's there. The truth, you know.
I mean, yeah, it's truth exists. I don't know if we can touch it though. I mean, yeah,
Independent of us, yeah.
I don't think we can. I don't think it's possible. I know that you kind of to some degree disagree.
I think we can only see a low resolution version of it because it's holographic. So we can see the truth. We just can't see the total truth, just the small fuzzy portion of it.
Yeah. See, this is why I love this, because I differ. I don't think we can even see low resolution because, like, I guess unless maybe I'm picturing that explanation wrong, but like a shitty old TV, you can see the show, like it looks like garbage, but you can see it. I don't think we could even see like a really shitty old CRT version. And if you don't know what that is, if you're younger, it was TVs didn't used to be flat. I don't even think you could see like that version of the truth. I think it's completely out of our depth, that we are ants of nothingness when compared to it. But
So I
that's
think
just me.
consciousness is everything in the universe. Like consciousness is the prerequisite for everything else. So if we're conscious and we can grasp, physical laws and things that are happening in the Andromeda galaxy, if we can grasp all these things, then we were designed in a way to be able to understand and interpret things on our own level. And if holograms and fractals didn't exist, I wouldn't believe this. I would be like you, where it's like, how can we know? But holograms exist because fractals exist. And you take any small portion of a hologram, and that's the whole hologram. It's just low res.
Yeah.
So the fact that that's true, it makes me think like, of course we can know. I don't know. I mean, call me crazy, I guess. I don't know.
No, I mean, I get your theory. Like I said, I fully grasp it for sure. I'm not concrete on anything.
I'm the
It's
same
hard.
way. I don't know that I necessarily hold to anything. I just have a lot of questions, and those questions have questions, and yeah.
I think that's the important part.
That's that's more important than anything else. I think some questions though need to be whittled down to like I think a lot of the time, specifically in our context of like a Christian point of view, we get very, very, very caught up on parts of questions that are irrelevant, and it clouds. It's like arguing with somebody you love, and you're arguing about really stupid shit that has nothing to do with the actual problem. And then 5 hours into the argument, you're like, oh, we're actually talking about the problem now. And then it takes it takes at least a shorter amount of time to like solve whatever it was. We get caught up on like really stupid shit that is at least mostly irrelevant if you were to like break the questions down more to their actual basic form. Like, I
kind of see it as foundational though. Like if you were to go up to some average kind of like violent person who's not doing so well in life. Yeah, just your average like rioter, or I don't know, just somebody who's not doing great. And you were to ask them who is Jesus, like they would probably not really be able to give you a decent answer. So I think the picture we have of this reality that we can picture in our minds and kind of understand a framework to, it will help people feel more connected, because this whole model that I'm trying to put together shows kind of definitively that everyone is connected, and not just in like some kind of hippie way, but electromagnetically. And if people can kind of visualize that.
Do they need to feel connected though? I mean, there's a lot of things that
to everyone, you wouldn't harm people. You wouldn't wrong people.
I agree with that. Yeah.
If you felt like that was you, then that's what I'm saying. Like people don't have the right image in their head.
I mean, take it all the way back to the very beginning of time. If you had human beings, just in a very general sense, that felt a very deep rooted need to understand how they are connected, like how we are all one, literally every horrible thing that has happened, every atrocity would never have happened. And like, to not to start shit, but the stuff we're going through now, just culturally, none of it would exist. If everybody had a true, a genuine, a childlike understanding of how similar and how connected we truly are, like at the core of it, how connected we are, that the outer appearance is completely irrelevant. The cultural differences on a spiritual level are irrelevant. That we are all, created in God's image, and that, like Ghost was saying, the ultimate goal is to line, the way he said it was, line up your algorithm with God's algorithm. But it's a way of saying just behave, act, and live out like in God's image, how he would. There'd be no bullshit. Everybody would be very much tied on like a spiritual level.
You would see other people as like limbs. You wouldn't cut off your own
Mm.
finger. You wouldn't cut off your arm. Well, some people are doing that now. So it's
I
like
don't
if you
know.
see other
Exactly. Now
people
I have
as
more questions.
if you see
Like
other
that.
people as parts of yourself, then you're not going to harm them. So if we taught this to like 5-year-olds in school and showed them pictures, like I feel like results would be a little better, you know?
I think it'd be better. I mean, on one hand, though, like sin exists. So I think there are still, because what I was gonna say is like think of it as like your child, but there are people who hurt their children. So I
Yeah.
think the statistically the amount of bullshit would be very low, but there are still going to be
Maybe
people
improvement.
there. That's it. Yeah, I think there'd be massive improvement, but there will still be outliers
Okay, that's fair.
who don't care. Yeah, I think
Right.
that'd be more like a more honest way to kind of talk about
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I
well,
don't want to be like associated with or connected to like Dahmer, for example. You know, like that's
Yeah.
not.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he's harming people, this goes back into the nap. Like if he's harming people, innocent people, then you know something has to happen to him. Like, sorry, we can't just let people roam around and harm people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sorry. But yeah, I get you.
But it'd be fewer. It'd be fewer. If we all
That's
felt
Yeah,
fair.
and if we look at each other as a body, like we're supposed to, Dahmer's like cancer.
Nope.
So
Yeah,
yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
he's evil. I don't want to get into that. I think evil. I think evil gets way too much mental health crisis credit, but whatever.
I agree with
there's
that.
always going to be cancer cells, and we have to have a protocol. And right now we don't. So
death
it is what it is. Yeah, but it's like
The death
we're not
penalty.
enforcing things, etc. I'm not going to get into it, but yeah,
I think that's the only way. Hot take. I think death penalty should be used actually way more often than it is.
I
I
agree.
think death penalty in the Hunger Games style, like let's just throw them on an
No.
island. Yeah, it's
No.
entertainment.
What
For entertainment.
are you kidding me? No.
Yeah,
No. Are we gonna start fighting again, Ghost? Like, no way. That is so not okay. And then use kids? That's like exploitation.
No,
he's
no,
not
I'm-
talking about kids though. He's
not talking about kids.
He's talking about hardened criminals who in many cases are hurting kids. He's saying to
Yes.
put them on an island, throw a dome over that bitch, and let them go to town. I'm not
That's
endorsing
right.
this,
I'm
but
all for
I appreciate it.
castration of predators.
No, I think they should die.
Okay. But while they're waiting,
Yeah, I'm all for that. Yeah. I think people who are kids, I don't think in any way they should be a draw on society whatsoever. They should not be free in society. They should not be a financial draw. They should not be breathing oxygen that could be used elsewhere. I think they're like, whether it's your fault or not, I'm sorry, but you provide nothing but a draw in one way or another. And you can't have a healthy earth that way. You can't have healthy society that way. That's my
I don't see why we wait. Like right after the sentencing, all right, take a trip to Hunger Games Island. I mean,
we pay millions of dollars to keep them on death row for 20 years, 30 years.
yeah.
It's wild. It's
I don't know
such a
why.
wild system.
We should get at least some free labor out of them, I think, in the process.
Yeah, I mean, produce something. Something. They could be. There's so many things. There's so many things that could be used that would be productive.
I wonder where does evil reside then? The soul, the spirit? Sorry.
soul.
Okay. I won't do that.
No, it makes
I think it resides in the soul. It's just not tuning to the right frequency. The God frequency, the Holy Spirit. When you're not tuned to that, all kinds of stuff can happen.
Yeah, I agree with that. I explain it in a different way, but I
because there
agree with
are more bad channels than good. Like broad is the way to destruction. There's one Holy Spirit that's kind of the way, the truth, and the life. You live like that, or you live in a plethora of other ways that aren't like that. That's why broad is the way to destruction, because there's more wrong ways to do something than there is a right way to do something. Think of anything. There's more wrong ways to do it than right.
But you're saying through spirit or through soul?
The soul is just the filter of the spirit. So it would have to be, what spirit are we talking about? Because there's all kinds of spirits.
Where does evil reside?
Where does evil reside? I think evil resides in every soul. The potential for evil resides in every soul.
Okay.
Just like every radio has a potential to play only oldies. If you tune to the oldies, I'm not saying oldies are evil because I like the oldies. But there's always going to be a channel that's possible on every radio. But you don't have to turn to that channel, but you can. And I think the soul is a more complex version of that. And we turn to channels based on events that happen to us. It's not like a thing that we just dial on our head. If an event happens to you enough, it's going to create a sort of groove, a habitual way of thinking. And that can be really hard to break.
Right. Okay. And on that note, I'm just wondering, are there any parts that are redeemable? So do you think there's a part where humanity just goes too far, beyond a point where it's just not redeemable, like Dahmer?
As a whole or an individual?
As a whole or individual? I was just going to say, yeah, like
let's just look at Dahmer, Jeffrey Dahmer, okay? Because supposedly he was quote unquote saved. Well, we're just going to use him as an example. Do you think that he was so far gone that he was not redeemable?
I think only God can judge that.
I know that.
No, but so I guess I'll play kind of devil's advocate in a way. On using the radio frequency, theory or model, technically anybody could, right? If it's just a matter of tuning in to the right station, then technically anybody could at any point.
They say everyone has a Hitler in them somewhere. I mean, so
I don't know who they is, but I'm just wondering if it just gets to the point of no return. Because in terms of scripture, right, I know it talks about people where their conscience is seared, which to me kind of sounds like, I mean, I don't want to sound like a Calvinist or anything, but I honestly don't know that I can believe that some people can be redeemable. I think there's a part where it's just too far gone. And obviously, I felt like if we didn't think that was true, then we wouldn't be for the death penalty.
But what makes the difference between somebody who's too far gone and somebody who just continues to tune into that frequency? What makes it an absolute? So I guess
the effort. No, I guess I'm just wondering if it's just even worth the effort. Right? Because supposedly, what's his face from Focus on the Family? I don't know. One of those people went over and talked to Dahmer and got him quote unquote saved, right?
Yeah,
and I think the fool baptized. Like,
let go of him. General sense. So an individual who does evil. I don't
think so. But this is only my interaction with evil, and with other clients or whatever, and their interactions with evil. So I personally don't think so.
Yeah, but you got to get rid of that. That's all very anecdotal, which is just not useful for this. Like, get rid of that. Just in a general sense, just think about the concepts. A human being with a soul who is born at least in the image of God or intended to be in the image of God, but has free agency and free will. They begin life doing evil. That was me. I was a downright evil person. I've nothing but thoughts evil, actions evil, everything about me was evil. I was a fucking sick person. There was a point where now, like, I couldn't even recognize that person. I couldn't even imagine having similar thoughts. It doesn't seem like I'm that same human. So, like, in a sense, I agree with you, because when I found out Jeffrey Dahmer like got saved or whatever, I'm with you. I call bullshit. I call bullshit so hard. On the other hand, I have my own anecdotal experience of I was a terrible person, awful. But at some point, I no longer, to use the terminology, I no longer was tuning into these same frequencies. And not only that, but then I was tuning into very specific alternative frequencies. And it changed absolutely everything about me in every possible sense. So that now I don't even think I'm capable of tuning into evil frequencies. I don't think I could do it.
Right.
So I get it to a point, but is there an absolute? I guess I don't know. I think Jeffrey Dahmer is just a manipulative piece of shit. So that's why I don't believe it. But that doesn't mean anything. It just means it was a piece of shit. It doesn't mean anything is like for like the general concept of can you be redeemed? Are you ever too far gone to be redeemed? I'd have a real hard time like thinking somebody who had essay a bunch of kids could be redeemed, but that's because that emotionally, in an emotionally unintelligent frame of mind, because that destroys me, I want to say F that person. No, there's no possible way. But I don't know. I mean, what if they started tuning into different frequencies?
Yeah. Where's Kat? Kat needs to get on here. Yeah, I want to hear about Dahmer being saved and your thoughts on that. But I think, I mean, Joe, you weren't eating people, right? To my knowledge, and
No, but Rodriguez, you'd be real upset if you knew the type of person I was. I wasn't eating people.
I know.
No, I did not go
I
that
know
far.
a little bit.
But
I know
I was violent and I enjoyed being violent. So that's pretty sick. That's pretty sick.
I don't know about. I mean, Joe, I was a boxer. I don't know about all that. I mean,
I have a question. Can cancer be cured from the body? Can we cure cancer from the body?
Rabbit hole.
Right? I would say yes, right? We can.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some intervention involved with the soul and the spirit.
Yeah, but we can do it. So if someone's bad and there's someone who comes into their life and does an intervention and changes their mind about things they did, it's not up for me to say whether that person is genuinely changed, but if they are, then of course they're redeemed. But I don't know if they are, because that's something only God knows.
It's the whole
there's a lot of manipulation.
Yes, yeah. That's what it's intention. What is your you'll never know their actual intentions. I mean, shit, I could be lying about all of this. I just love I want to manipulate everybody so bad that I spend so much time doing all of this, but I'm still a horribly evil person. I think the best way to see is the best way to see is like the fruits, right? Like if I was the way that I was most of my life and did and went and whatever, and then I say I'm changed, but I there's no fruit, to say it in a Christian term. There's no fruit. Then I think it's fair to question that and to be like, but are you? But did you? I don't know. But then on the other hand, you have guys who like, murder someone or lived nothing but an evil life when they were young and then come out of prison 20 years later, have a change in frequency. Now they're all about God. They're all about spirituality. They want a family or they have a family, whatever. And their fruit every single day shows that like, no, that person is completely different.
I think I'm more inclined. I'm more inclined to buy that than like the epidemic we have in churches today, which is why we have so many documentaries on it, right? Pastor preaching from the pulpit, all this holiness and righteousness. He seems legit. And then you find out he's a fucking baby raper behind the scenes. And then he quotes unquote repents. He's a changed man. He felt conviction, blah, blah, blah. And the guy's back up on the pulpit 5 minutes later.
Well, I mean, that's sick. That should be mocked and just completely destroyed in every possible public space. Is how people should deal with that. Why that's not all over the news all the time. And I mean, it is to a point, like I know what you're talking about. You see it, but the fact that, I mean, anybody who touches children is out of prison 3 years later is atrocious. But this is all kind of like, this is nuance again. This is like minutia again.
It's a failure of the system.
It's a failure of the system. It's a failure of both systems. It's a failure of the church system. It's a failure of the judicial system. And it's a failure of fucking culture for letting it happen. We shouldn't as a culture allow that to happen, and we do. And you can say we don't, but we do.
I expect it in culture. I just don't expect it in church culture. And the fact that they have the nerve to freaking shame the victims, instead of the actual perpetrators, that's a whole nother mindfuckery of evil that I can't comprehend.
I mean, yeah.
People still give Kenneth Copeland money.
It's so crazy.
That dude.
We're not
I
advanced.
can't even look that guy in the eyes.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Dude has vampire eyes.
If there's no better testament to how just, and I love everybody here, but how fucking stupid so many people are. And I don't think there's a better word for it. If you are a human being who pays taxes and goes to work and can do like general math, and you give money from your paycheck to Kenneth Copeland or like Joel Osteen, you're stupid. You're a dumb person. You're dumb, you're brain, whatever it is. Like maybe you're not stupid, but you're fucking brainwashed. It's one or the other. No sensible person could do that. It's crazy. The shit they say. If I don't know how many people have actually sat and listened to hours and hours of these guys preach. I have. It's fucking wild. It's crazy. You would think it's like a joke, a parody. It's not. But the shit they say is insane. It's insane. They're like, they have some kind of spell on these people. It seems like
It really is. I mean, that's
crazy.
what it is.
It's one of the things that like made me really start believing that evil is way more deliberate than I thought. And like it's wild.
It's a wolf in sheep's clothing, I guess.
It's that, but it's so orchestrated and it works so well.
Which is
it's
scary.
so useful.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
I think it's psychologically, I think it's like a form of covert narcissism, I think is the word. Where it's like they're like nice, quote unquote, narcissists.
You think that's I just see them as demonic.
You're magicians.
I mean, I would agree. I think, like I said, there's so much demonic shit that's like psychologically diagnosed. I think they've added like pedophilia to the DSM or something like that.
Yeah.
But in terms
Speaking
of
of Gemini, sorry, go
on. Yeah, but I'm not understanding why it's such a prevalent epidemic. Like there's something deeply rooted there. And how to resolve it, how to pray against it, or whatever. I don't know.
With the prosperity thing?
It's not even prosperity. Like if you watch these documentaries, like I know I've posted a few, like what is it, Shiny Happy People, the one from the dude from Hillsong in New York. I forget. There's so freaking many of them, but there's just a pattern of like duplicity, deception, manipulation, and two-faced Gemini, whatever you want to call it. There's just, I don't know, a theme, a pattern.
Do you think do you think that the things you described there, do you think they're that much different than like an actor and actress?
Yeah.
Why? They get caught all the time doing shit like that. Or like a politician, a lower level politician. They all get caught.
It's a little bit.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing is like if I get caught stealing, right? Okay. And someone asks me, am I stealing? And I say no, right? That's one level of deception. But these pastors are not like that. They get caught, or they are stealing, but they'll go so far as to preach against stealing and how horrible it is. Do you get what I'm saying? Like it's this whole nother fucking level.
Well, it's hypocrisy. The only thing that makes it different is that they have a podium. They have an audience.
No.
So it's else? What's different about the behavior?
I don't know about you, but like if I do something wrong, I'm not going to sit here and like pretend that I did something great or the opposite of. Like,
well,
I'm probably gonna shut up.
But those are two different things. Then you're being honest, they're being deceptive. You're being honest, they're being hypocritical. But take somebody who's not a pastor and who practices hypocrisy, talks to their wife about how thieves are terrible, what a draw in society, and then they go to the grocery store and they steal. Is that person different than the pastor? I mean, know, I fucking hate these pastors, so I'm not trying to defend them, but
no, I know you aren't. Yeah, it's completely different. Number one, it's not like they're claiming to bear the name of Christ and to be bearing fruit and to be a trustful. No, that's the absolute problem with. I think it's beyond hypocrisy. It's a whole nother level of evil. It's fucking
They're
evil.
They're taking the Lord's name in vain.
It's blasphemy. Yeah, that's what I was getting.
Yeah.
At. Yeah. So, okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page because sometimes,
which doesn't sound redeemable, way if it is.
I've made this argument. I've made that argument. Yeah, I don't know. I think somebody who takes a position of leadership in just our context, somebody who takes a position as a pastor, You're taking on, and like when you get ordained, if you get like actually ordained, not like internet ordained, it's a whole process where you sit down and you go through kind of the ringer with
Well, you're
people
supposed to.
who are elder.
Yeah.
Which I don't think you're actually ordained if you don't go through it, because it's intentional, and a part of it is going over all of this stuff. Where like I guess in my experience, they talk to you about how many pastors fall from sexual immorality and what type of things to really be on guard for and what's appropriate and what's not. And it's wildly intensive. And the whole thing behind it is that if you are to break these, there is nothing worse you could ever do. You lose everything. You lose everything and you completely destroy your entire congregation. Everybody suffers. And it's a form of blasphemy, is the way that it was explained to me. And I completely agree with that. It's a form of blasphemy for you to do that. And that's not to say like pastors aren't going to make mistakes, and like shit does happen.
Yeah, it's different though. It's a whole
it's different. It's different. But I mean, I've known good guys who have like stepped out on their wife. It totally changed the way I looked at them. Completely changed the way I looked at them. But is that comparable to someone like Kenneth Copeland? Then you get back into the same old age-old argument of like, are there levels to sin? If the Joe Schmo pastor who cheated one time had a moment of weakness, whatever, compared to Kenneth Copeland, are they both participating in blasphemy to the same degree?
Well, Kenneth Copeland is pending. If not, someone's just waiting to just expose him. But
he's a demon. I think he's actually a demon.
He's like Emperor Palpatine.
I think that dude is actually a demon. He's like a lizard person.
I was just gonna compare him to what's his face. Oh, what's the is it the Facebook guy? What's his name?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I like.
They come from the same planet.
Yeah, they come from the same
from
planet.
the same lizard cloth or whatever.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but like for example, with like the Hillsong one, right? They were saying how this guy was so manipulative and deceptive that he could kind of like pull on people's emotions and cry on command.
I mean, sure.
Right. But so there's like this false repentance type.
Well, where's the repentance? Where's the repentance? Did he like publicly repent or something? Or what do you mean?
Of course. I think a lot of them do that. Like, oh, I sinned against my wife and the Lord, you know.
Only when they get caught, 100%.
That's fair. That's 1000% true. I wish there was probably a documentary on all the wives. But I just don't.
The funniest part about all of this to me, and what I don't understand, is that everybody sins like to one degree, like sure. But as far as like substantial or meaningful sin in the Bible, it's really not that hard not to do it. Like it kind of takes some effort to do it.
What do you mean?
Like to lie or to do things like little things like that. I get that human beings are going to some degree do them. Do you ever have to lie? Like maybe in some scenarios, in very rare scenarios, you might have to lie or feel like you have to lie. Outside of that, like you don't really need to lie. You can just tell the truth. But lying is like one that I can understand where people will sometimes do this. And maybe it causes damage and maybe it doesn't cause any damage at all. But as far as bigger things like sexual immorality or proposing a false gospel or you gotta stop saying that word. But yes, that word stuff.
Oh, is that not allowed?
Not on YouTube, no.
I'm sorry.
You're good. As you already said it earlier. It doesn't matter. They won't share my stuff anyways. They told me this. So any of those things, why don't we tell Christians like, no, it's not okay to sin at all? I've never understood this. They used to, for a very long time they did. There are literal verses that specifically say that if you perpetually sin, meaning repeating the same sin more than once or over and over, you are literally of the devil. That's what the Bible says. Nobody wants to talk about that shit. That's exactly what the Bible says. You're of the devil. Jesus came to destroy that which is of the devil. And somebody who sins perpetually is of the devil. So on one hand, I can understand the little, call them little. It's totally
Well,
subjective.
that doesn't
But
sound redeemable.
you can call it, but I agree. That's my point. I don't think it is. But yet that's what we preach. That's what you teach people in church. Is that everybody sins. Love the sinner. Jesus came for the sinner. Jesus is here for the sinner. He accepts the sinner. No, he fucking doesn't. He was here for the sinner. He doesn't accept the sinner. I can't find a single goddamn verse that says he accepted a sinner. I've never seen that shit. I've seen you cut off the verse, and then when I post the rest of
Right,
it,
that part.
it makes clear you're full of shit. But I've never seen
what
this.
does accepted even mean?
It's tolerate.
Accepted what?
Tolerate. And that's not at all what Jesus did.
In perpetuity? Just that's
Yeah.
cool now?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, because then I think it kind of bleeds over into a different thing, because I feel like we kind of take it too far, where like I was born with like a really firm religious background where everything was bad and evil,
But that's all made up. I mean, just on the Bible, what you have that's objective. Because it's whether you stray too far this way towards grace or you stray too far this way towards legalism, all of those things strayed from the middle, which is the Bible. No matter which way you go, you're in trouble. So you can't do either. Because I came from that too. I came from a very strict Roman Catholic household. I went to Catholic school, went to church 3 times a week. And I think it had something to do with why I said fuck this and went crazy at some point. But either way is off of the base, and the base is the Bible. But if you take just the Bible only with nothing else, no interpretive gymnastics, no bullshit, no nothing,
Right.
and just follow what is very, very, very clear, I don't see any reason why we should tell Christians that it's okay to sin or that you'll be forgiven if you perpetually sin. The Bible point blank says that you won't, that you're of the devil, and that Jesus came to destroy you. That's what it says. That's what it says in 1 John. So I've never grasped that. And just to go to the point is that I don't think that is redeemable personally.
I think redemption is based on intention, and we can't fully understand intention unless we were to have some like precogs from Minority Report that dials into someone's brain and proves whether they're being genuine or not. So until that day comes, I mean, I hope that day never comes, but that would be the only way to know whether someone is truly redeemed, if they genuinely had a conversion. But people lie, so
I mean,
I don't think Go ahead.
I mean, it's hard because I also feel like there's different like circumstances and time frames in people's life. Like sometimes in these scenarios, I look at God like a loving father, right, or a parent, right. And I remember when I was like a really strict religious mom, right, and I wouldn't allow certain things, and then all of a sudden, boom, something horrible happens, and for the first time ever, I say a cuss word, right? And so does my kid, who was 12 at the time. And I'm okay if anyone like demonizes what I did. I really don't fucking care. But I let her, and I understood it. It was coming from a very deep place of anger, sorrow, all of those places. And I did let it take place for a season pertaining to certain circumstances. But then after a while, I did have to be like, okay, like there's enough of that. Let's tone this down and let's kind of, get back to reality. So.
Of swearing?
Well, yeah, that was just when she was 12 though, Joe. Like that wasn't.
But I don't know. Never mind, because we're gonna start a whole different conversation. I get what you're saying though, but I don't. Do you think that's irredeemable?
No. But if it was my mom.
Oh, okay. But it's
my mom would have like blacklisted her and probably tried to do an exorcism.
But based on nothing, based on something in her head. Nothing says that anywhere. We don't have any reason to believe that's how we're to deal with those types of situations.
Well, right. But what is it? Is it in Galatians where it talks about don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth?
It has nothing to do with swearing, because guess what? None of those words fucking existed.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, what they would have.
Anyways, our house is a no swear zone, but I with my daughter involved, obviously, but
Okay.
it's
Except for you're in all the time.
except well here my kid's not here, but like as far
Mhm.
as around my kid, there's no swearing ever, but there's no way I would ever teach her that swear words actually mean anything at all, because they don't. To go say fuck in parts of South Africa, nobody will have any idea what you're talking about. So does fuck actually mean anything? No. We've assigned meaning to it. It doesn't mean anything. Your intention is what means something. What do you mean when you say fuck? Why are you saying fuck?
They'll say it in Thailand, and people might be like, "Whoa, how do you know my name?"
Something totally different. So like the swear words thing it's so annoying, because it does not mean anything at all other than the value in which we prescribe it. It has zero inherent value. And across cultures, you might be offending somebody, you might be saying somebody's name, you might be saying something about a noodle. It means nothing. They mean nothing. It's what is in your heart that you're trying to get out, conveying to somebody else. That you could consider would be like the swear. That would be the crassness from the heart that the Bible talks about. The word is irrelevant, is all that I mean. So like when the Bible talks about swear, it doesn't talk about swearing ever at any point at all. It talks it talks about the intention that you're expressing and conveying with your words, which can be done without any swear words. I can say something to you right now that with no swear words, and it could be absolutely against what the Bible's saying.
But you don't think there might be a little bit more grace depending on circumstances, situations, and things like that?
No, I think there absolutely are.
Okay,
That's what I'm
that's
saying.
my point.
Yeah, no,
That's my point.
I'm totally with you. I'm 100% on your team with all that. I just want everybody to be very clear that the Bible does not talk about swearing, because swearing as we know it and understand it did not exist. So to apply it to 2024 swearing is an exegetical disaster of a lie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'll give a different example. If my kid is upset because X, Y, and Z happened, and she says, "I hate all men. I want them to die."
Well, she needs to fix her heart, but I don't think she's irredeemable.
Right. But so the way I handled it, I was like, okay, I understand. I was like, but what? And there was a boy in the car at the time. I think it was my nephew
Oh
or something.
God.
I was like, right. I was like, but what about him? She's like, okay, fine. I was like, what about Mr. So and so, her favorite teacher? Okay, fine. And I listed a few others, and she's like, okay, fine. And I'm like, okay, so is it possible that if you know some people that can live, that maybe other people might know some others that can live? And she's like, well, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean,
Like, okay, so
did she
not
actually
all
mean
of them.
that? No, so she didn't mean
She
it.
was little. And I understood actually where she was coming from. But like,
sure.
I definitely would not have been my mom in that
But
situation.
even if an adult says that, like a grown-ass adult says, I hope that all men die, they if they mean it, they're sick, because it's an atrocious thing to say, because there are plenty of good men. Even if 99 out of 100 men were awful, there's still one good man in that batch of 100 that is good. So for you to say that makes you kind of sick. And
No. I mean,
yeah.
maybe I'm a little too passive. Like, okay, my old boss, right? His wife left him for another woman. Okay. So he was really upset, and he said a bunch of bad stuff about women. And I'm just kind of like, okay, man, I'm going to let that go because you're going through some stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and
but
he's
that's
a grown ass man.
But that's my point,
So
is that they don't mean it. But if they actually mean it, something is wrong with them, not with the
that's
world.
fair.
Yeah, something is wrong with them. But in most cases, they don't actually mean it. It's somebody being emotionally unintelligent, and they're
Emotionally
reacting.
driven. I'll say emotionally driven.
Well, it's essentially the same thing. I mean, so if you have full control on your emotions, you're not going to say something like that. Somebody who's emotional intelligence has nothing to do with being smart. It's control of your emotions and nothing more. So somebody who fully controls their emotions would never say, God, I hate all women. God, I hate all men. It's emotionally unintelligent. It's why children say things like that more than adults, but plenty of adults do too.
Well, they should be. Right.
Plenty of adults do too, though. But they shouldn't.
Okay.
If you control your emotions, you wouldn't say that.
I know someone has their hand raised. Sorry.
I sent him a message. He's got to. I don't reckon. I've seen him around, but I haven't seen him around a lot. And we've got to give him verified speaker. So, Ghost, if you could read the chat, in Discord if
Yeah,
you haven't already.
I think he's legit.
Yeah, okay.
Honk Father? Yeah, I think he's
All
legit.
right, we got 5 minutes, so he'll be closing. He'll be closing because I got to roll. I got to get the kiddo to bed. All right, you are in.
Sorry about that. Joe's being a night shifter. He woke up 15 whole minutes ago.
Oh my gosh, God bless you.
I try. I apologize. It's windy outside. My kid screams inside, so here we go. I didn't get too much context, but as for cursing, that's something that I've been working on lately. 4 years in the military, working at a warehouse. Let me tell you, I got some stuff that can curl your hair. The main stuff that I just avoid is using the Lord's name, or the way my pastor described it is like saying the word damn, or like if you direct it at somebody, that's when it really is something bad.
Yeah.
Because if you say damn you to somebody, that's like the worst thing you could ever want for someone. Everything else, that's just, an extra verb or a verbal spacer.
Yeah, I mean, even that. So let me push you a little bit on that. So if you take the average person in America, and they say "damn you," and you collect every time somebody said that over the past year, do you think even half of them, what they were thinking was that, like "damn you to hell"? I would say probably 99% of them aren't at all thinking that. So that's not their intention when they say it, right? It's kind of just something that we say now.
Yeah, I try to avoid religious cuss words just for myself, because that's
sure.
the one time I feel kind of icky about it. But like the F word itself, and I'll try to avoid it because I know you're on YouTube, but it's my favorite word because it's a verb, adjective, noun. Like you can do a lot with that. It is like cinnamon on pudding. It is perfect.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I respect the whole religious thing. I try to avoid those things too. And like saying Jesus Christ as like an exclamatory, I don't like that. I don't think that's great. But
I think that like
No, I don't do that either. Never.
Go ahead, my bad.
No, you're good. Go.
No, I was just saying I agree. I don't do that ever.
I save that for like really, really bad things that happen. Like my brother's real sick right now. He told me like, "Hey, yeah, I've been coughing up blood for a week," and then I went, "Jesus Christ!"
Yeah.
Not like as a oh my goodness, more like invoking like, can you keep him alive so you can see my kid grow up? He's pretty cool.
Yeah, I say that like that also. But there's but this like it brings it all back to the point, which is your intention. What the Bible actually talks about is what are you intending to express to out into the world? What are you putting out into the world? The words are irrelevant because we all speak different languages across the world. And the words are irrelevant because swear words today were not the swear words during biblical times. They had different words that they would say too, but all of that is irrelevant. What is relevant is the intention. Why am I saying it? For what reason? Who am I directing it at? Am I directing it at somebody? It's all the condition of the heart that actually makes any of it matter at all. And then, so like you have personal convictions on certain things you want to say and certain things you don't want to say. I have, my own, and a lot of ours will probably align. And then some of us will have ones that the others don't because we grew up a certain way, or we have a pastor who really convinced us of one thing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with any of that because you're protecting yourself and what you believe.
Do you think there's any how do I say it? Do you think there's a point with some people who say that cussing is all right? However, like it's a question of representing yourself as a Christian.
So yeah, I'm glad you asked that. My opinion, then they can give theirs. My opinion on this, what I've always told people is that when you're with, I guess I'll relate it to like other things. So Paul talks about, there's a concept called adiaphora, and if you Google it later, look into it. It's a very theologically important term that all of Paul's teachings kind of are encompassed under this term of adiaphora, and it's essentially like the freedom under Christ, meaning that you're free, but that not all things are good. And if you read 1 Corinthians and 2 Corinthians, he uses terminology like that. Like, you're free to do anything, but it doesn't mean you should do anything. So you might be free to say whatever you want, but it doesn't mean you should say. In our context here, where this is a small group, right? We have 4 or 5 people in Discord right now, and then 8 people on YouTube, and I know everybody's name. Should somebody new come in here and I don't recognize their name, I would immediately not swear anymore. I would probably be a little more not careful, but like different in how I kind of like have the conversation, at least from my end, to be more mindful, because somebody who's not a part of our little group where we all know each other and are all comfortable with each other, and when I go off on a rant and say F, 10 times in a minute, everybody here is unfazed because they know me. Whereas somebody else who just walked in the room might be super put off by that. And that can damage, like that's evangelical, in an evangelical context, that can be damaging. That cannot be good.
Well, we did that. We did that with him, not
With-
especially in the realm of drinking. I think.
With who?
Which I'm literally holding a cocktail in my profile pic because I'm like, yeah.
I joined like, I don't know, maybe a month ago.
Yeah, no, he's been around.
Yeah, I'm a night shifter, so y'all never see me as surface dwellers.
Yeah.
No. I'm Pacific Standard Time, which means I am a night shifter for y'all. But
no, Honk Father, I've seen around. I just haven't seen him around enough. But I've seen him interact in Discord, so he wasn't like new. But earlier there was somebody, Laundry Possum. I don't know who that is, but they said who is that?
That's my YouTube. Sorry.
Oh, okay. But that's a good example though. As soon as I saw that name, my brain clicked a little bit, and I was like, okay, well that I don't recognize that. So what are we talking about right now? And then maybe be a little bit more careful. But I don't. You could definitely damage. You could definitely damage like your potential at ministry, depending on how you speak. But on the flip side of that, if somebody like me who looks like me, like super heavily tattooed, whatever, has a past, if I go into other certain circles of culture and I do swear like crazy, I will gain their confidence and I'll be able to minister to them better. So to me, it's like read the room. Read the room.
Absolutely.
yeah,
that was one.
I have something to say about the bad words in scripture.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's like, are you trying to build up and maintain and curate love and innocence and joy, or are you trying to tear it down? Because you can do both of those without using curse words.
Yes.
So that's how I see it.
What's your intention? What are your intentions? What is the condition of your heart?
I mean, but
Now,
it was more than that.
If I'm around someone and I know that, like a curse word might make them uncomfortable, then I'll just refrain because I don't want to cause any problems. But I don't think it's going to be like some kind of magical thing in God's eyes.
Yeah.
That damns me to hell because I said something.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, like even like when we were on here and we were all talking and you're like, oh, we'll be nice and sweet. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Like we fight. You and I specifically fight all the time on this chat.
We'll be nice
like,
and sweet.
But it's never malicious. Like I don't have a malicious bone in my body.
I know that. I argue with you out of fun sometimes. But
it's
and yeah, if someone is new on there, then yeah, I guess I have to tone it down and argue with you through DMs or something. But
no. For clarity,
arguing's not bad though.
Yeah, I don't want things censored, other than maybe like 10 minutes ago I said fuck like 30 times in 2 minutes. I'm just saying I would avoid doing that should I see somebody that I've never seen before in either YouTube or on Discord. Nothing else would change. The content of the conversation does not change, because I also don't want to mislead people when they're coming in new. Like somebody walking in here needs to know what this is about, because I have no desire to change this. I think this functions just fine. I think we do great things here and we talk about really important shit, and it's very, very good. It's just a matter of like, it's a tightrope walk of wanting people to feel welcome, but also I don't want to mislead people about what we do, because there are those people who will see what we're doing and be like, that's exactly what the fuck I've been looking for. This is it. And they feel very at home and comfortable. And it's like, it's not this crazy kooky Christian scenario where when somebody does get on here and talk and they accidentally slip and say the F word, everybody's going to lose their shit and ban them from the Discord. Like there's both of those.
Is not for
culture.
Everybody.
It's definitely
it's an acquired taste.
It's definitely not. It's a game of algorithms. I like that. Yeah.
And especially with arguments too, is like, that's one thing that I appreciated the most. Because when I was a youngin' back in the day, I went to Nebraska Cornhuskers Boys State. And that is the only place I've ever had like a lively political discussion that didn't devolve into name calling.
Yeah.
And like, I'm a big fan of enthusiasm. I'm very passionate when I talk about things that I care about. And to have that here, as little as I'm able to participate with my schedule, it's very, very nice to have, because I can just ask a question and everyone has something on it so that I can expand my understanding.
We definitely do that. Ghost
it's
and
the
I alone.
best. Yeah, it's the
Like
best.
the long
That's
hair
nuts.
thing. Oh,
I think it's great. I think like Rodriguez said, it's definitely not for everybody. I think it's not for most. I think it's not for most people. But especially I don't know what the demographic really is like now. But when this first started, and we had like it was like 10 people total. Virtually everybody was like either literally kicked out and told they couldn't come back to the church, or in some way felt like disenfranchised, like they didn't identify with the church anymore. They didn't believe in what was being said. They felt like they were being played. Just in some way, it was one of those things, was like virtually everybody. I'm sure it's broadened from now, but those are the people that I think are going to like be here and feel comfortable here. And that's what we want, because those are probably likely people who can have these types of conversations. If we get your run of the mill, Jim John Jones that just is coming out of like a systematic church and loves everything that is being said and doesn't feel like they're being manipulated at all, or at least doesn't feel like maybe they should question some things, they're going to come here and they're going to be very, very confused and very thrown off and uncomfortable and think that we're insane. I feel like, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Like, one thing that I wanted to mention about that is I have a cousin who lives in New York, and she is Taoist currently. And she told me a story. She was a really big part of like a Baptist church in her area. And she was asking all these questions, like, oh, that's fantastic. And she was like, yeah, I bet it is. They said the devil was working on me because I was asking too many questions. Like, that's insane. I got mad about that.
Jesus
So many
Christ.
churches do that. I was a United Methodist before they blew up, and my favorite pastor,
wow.
he was a non-denominational church. First sermon I ever truly enjoyed, because I thought he was going to point at me every single second. And they pulled a coup where they waited until 2 of the councilmen were out and he couldn't vote. And they then, like, with 2 votes or whatever, they did something real shady, and they went Nazarene and like used him as a scapegoat for it. It was atrocious.
Fuck that shit.
Wow.
That's spiritual abuse and spiritual manipulation.
It's manipulation.
That doesn't get
It's manipulation. Yeah. That's wild.
It's so hard to find a church. I thought being in the corn and Bible Belt would, help me out, but still, I just can't find it.
Yeah, no. It's I've learned nothing if that it's not. It's a global issue. Even in other countries, it's a global issue. It's wild. What has happened to the church is atrocious. It's very, very, very sad. And I think it will be destroyed. I think it needs to metaphorically, or potentially to some degree, to some degree, physically burn.
In Minecraft.
It needs to burn.
It
needs
YouTube.
it needs a rejuvenation. We need an actual revival. Christianity needs a actual revival where people are doing things like this. I think small groups are going to save the world, and I think if they don't, then we're fucked. The faith is fucked, in my opinion.
The thing about small groups is we can't really coordinate, though.
You could if it's done intelligently, though. Like if we had this, say up to 500 members, and we had 15 of you who considering if this is big enough, several people could like make at least a part-time living doing this, same as a church, from donations and nothing else, or from ad revenue. There's a lot of different routes you could go, even with the 0 donations, with a bigger audience. So say, but even if not, everybody volunteers. You have 15 people who are part of the coordination team. And then you have another Discord doing it with 500, and another with 15, or with 500, and all these different Discord groups with 500 people at caps of 500. But the 15 people on the coordination team, they meet 2-3 times a week and they coordinate, and then everything gets passed down. I mean, if there's a meeting once every day or twice every day, morning and night, so that no matter your schedule, like Hongfather, you can eventually get there, or everything is recorded anyways. I don't know. I think you could definitely coordinate. I think it would take work. And it would take the right people, but that's any business. You need to have the right people in the right position.
It sounds like a religious or like a spiritual republic. You're describing like representatives.
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah.
In a sense, for sure.
I mean, that sounds cool, but man.
I think about
That's
it all the time.
difficult.
It's super difficult. It's super difficult. And I think it scales well, unlike a church. A church at a certain point they cannot continue to scale. They become an imploding financial disaster, no matter what. It's a part of why, like, taking your actual living from ministry, I don't think can work at scale. I don't think it's possible, because then you're beholden to people. You're beholden to certain demographics and ideologies. If everything that you guys donate doesn't matter at all about my survival or feeding my family, which it doesn't, I don't at all feel beholden to any of you. I feel like I can just say what I feel and be honest and be who I am. And if you want to leave or take your money back, that's on you. Good luck. I love you. It's the church is not like that. The church is, we're taking your money. And if in most cases, there are certain donors who provide more than 30% of the entire church's funds. And in many cases, it's upwards of 50 or past 50. So you can't piss those people off. You're beholden to those donors. That's the majority of churches in the entire country. And then take it to the next level, which is the actual church planting organizations, which most of you know I went through the entire funding process. We had $500,000. We went through the whole thing. And then I'm like, no, I'm not fucking signing that. That is bullshit.
It's loyalty to shareholders.
It's exactly the same thing. It's identical. It is corporate. It's all corporate. So it can't work like that. It has to be independent. I believe even me, I don't think I should ever make my living doing anything like this, because then in some way I'm beholden to you. And I don't ever want to do that. It should be supplemental at best. And it should be in some way poured back into doing this in a cooler fucking way, or in a bigger way. Advertising, whatever, bring new people in because YouTube fucking hates me. But all of that, but never survive off of it, so that I'm never beholden to people. And it's always honest, and it's always transparent and transactional in a different way. But if you have a bunch of groups doing this, and you have good communication between, like Ghost said, it is kind of like a republic. You have representatives who help the communication go back and forth, and then you could do once a month where 5 of the groups meet all together and make sure everything's on the same page and there's no messed up games of telephone going on. I think you could totally do it. I think about this shit all the time. I think it's what will save the church. Yeah.
This, believe it or not, the way you're describing it, this is kind of like Freemasonry, man. This is how they have it set up.
In 2025. No, I'm just joking.
In a sense, yes. In a sense, yes.
It really is, though. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's set up that way for a good reason. However, it requires that everyone kind of go through a sort of like, we got to be on the same page here kind of thing. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
With some things, yeah. I know what you're alluding to, and I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay.
What's the number on how many people you can know and actually have a human connection with? And the number I remember
what that's called.
It's like 148 people that you can see as like human beings. Like, you live in New York, you've got like your 50 friends, and everybody else on the subway is like another person, sure, but you don't have that connection.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what I see with like all of these like major modern churches. I heard Copeland, when I got on first. And that's exactly what I think is, and I've had this talk before a ton, is that churches either do two things. They rule either by fear or by prosperity, because they need butts in pews and they need money in the plate.
Yep.
And the only way that they can do that is by convincing someone that they need this thing. And the real way that you should be preaching a sermon is by convicting people, having them be self-aware and improve upon that sin. And nobody likes that because it makes them feel bad. They feel convicted.
Yeah.
They aren't going to put money in the plate, and they aren't going to sit in the pew for that.
Yep.
So they're hell if you don't come. So that's the two things that a lot of modern churches do.
Oh, all of them. I would argue all of them. It's one or the other.
Well, my one pastor before he got, cooed, he didn't do that. He was actually like good, because I was sweating bullets that one sermon he did, because he had the perfect way to preach. I miss it so much.
That's the way it should be. We've touched on it all the time, is that if you're receiving some kind of like message from a leader in ministry, and you don't in any way feel uncomfortable with the way that you're living, you're either living like in the 1% behavior wise and like life choice wise, or you're not getting preached at the right way. I think any message that's like truly coming from a ideological view that just our culture simply doesn't follow should, if you're honest and you really believe this, like you believe in God, you should feel very convicted in one sense or another. You should feel very convicted. If you don't, something is wrong. Either you're really, really good and you're part of a very small percentage, or something else. And it's probably not a good thing.
What was it? It was, if you read the Bible and it doesn't make you mad, you're doing it wrong.
100%. Yeah. When we do, I don't know how much of this stuff you watch, but when we do the Bible study on Sunday nights, it's brutal. If you actually read the Bible and you break it down word by word, it's a brutal goddamn book. In both the Old Testament in one sense, but then in the New Testament in like a God, everything is fucked and always has been sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a nice book to read. It's a really, really rough read.
Yeah, I'm blessed. I started out as a nihilist, so everything's sucking I'm used to. But now there's like inherent value and stuff. This is actually kind of an upgrade from where I was before.
Yeah, I mean, it's full of a lot of hope too, for sure.
Oh yeah,
for sure. But the problem is, like, we've begun to focus only on the positive and never on the negative, and that's a problem because it shifted. At first, it was all sin, fire, and brimstone, and then it's all grace. You know, nothing you do matters. It's if you believe in Jesus. You know, go watch OnlyFans and go do whatever the hell you want. You're all good.
You're baptized. You're good. I've heard that before.
Yeah, that's crazy. You're not reading the actual book. Yeah, Christianity's not that hard. It's like we were talking about sin. Not sinning like in a meaningful biblical way is really not that hard. Go ahead.
Oh, the way that I describe it is like a lot of people talk to me like, oh, the Bible's like a strict parent, which I absolutely get. I appreciate that description, first of all.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it tells you not to do this, not to do that, you know, curfews, turn your phone in by 8, don't be out at this time. And my whole thing is like, no, it's not like a strict parent. It's like, you know, the sticker with the skull on it on a bottle of Drano. It's like, man, that looks real tasty. Oh, wait a second. That thing tells me I'll probably die if I drink it. Like every single thing I've read the Bible tells you not to do is something that will probably hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm a mom. So as a parent, it's also like, hey, I love you and I want you to live. So please don't drink that.
It's both. It's both. It's certainly both. I think more of that depends on the reader. That's why the Bible is a very dynamic text. But yeah, it's both. And certain people will, as long as the fundamentals stay the same and the essentials stay the same and you don't fuck with them, you can read it and feel it as a stern parent, and you can read it and see it as the Drano label. It's same content, just a different personality that's absorbing it. One person might need one, the other might need another. You know, a military guy might respond better to a Drano label, and Rodriguez as a mother might respond better to the strict parent thing. As long as the content remains static and none of that changes, and nobody's doing exegetical gymnastics one way or the other, I don't think that really matters. It's the same content.
And I always try to simplify a lot of my statements because, believe it or not, I don't have a ton of Christian friends, so I try to make allegory for it. Because I very much enjoy the fact that it is God the Father, because he's definitely the kind of guy who's like, oh, you fell off your bike, dust yourself off, do it again. You'll make it.
Oh, yeah. No, I
that's my
agree.
Understanding of it.
I absolutely agree with that. Okay, hey, guys, I got to go. This has been no, not at all. That was all really good. I'm glad you hopped in. It was nice to actually be able to talk to you. I hope you're able to make it more often.
I'll set an alarm. What, Thursdays at 6? I'll wake up early.
So Thursdays at 7. Yeah, I don't know where you are, but 7 p.m. Well, actually here, so if you go to the very top of the channels and you hit, it says 3 events. That'll give you the times for all 3 because we do 3 of these a week and each one is different.
Oh, 7 p.m. That's even better.
Yeah, so I guess this will be kind of our outro here too, and then I gotta run. I gotta wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
You can turn on the notifications too on YouTube, and that'll let you know.
Yes. So I don't know where everybody's watching, but on YouTube, you can see the screen. There's news and culture is the next one. So that's Saturday night at 7:30 Central Time. This is all Central Time. And then Sunday night at 6 p.m. Central Time, we do a live Bible study. That's word for word breaking down absolutely everything. And then Thursdays today is the, we call it the Thesis podcast, which is just the topic-based discussion. So there's 3 of these a week. Each one is at a different time to make it as confusing as possible, but also allowing some people to come who can't come other times and whatever. But news and culture, topic-based discussion that everybody votes on every week. That's tonight. And then Sunday's always Bible study. So those are the 3. And then, we're going to call it a night. I got an early morning, like every morning. But this was nice. And Hog Father, I'm glad you came on. It was nice to talk to you, dude.
Thanks. I love these talks. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'll try and make it more often. I'll set alarms and everything, wake up early.
I hope you do. I'd be stoked.
Good rest.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm going to go pass
Awesome.
the hell out.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. I love you all. I am
Later, y'all.
shutting down. Later, ghosts. Have a lovely evening, YouTubes. Lilith, good night. Rodriguez, Pastora. Have a great night. Have a lovely, great night. I feel like I'm falling asleep. Bye-bye.